How do you make the ultimate cup of coffee? Did you know you've probably never even tasted real coffee at all? That's right, some people feel the need to dump sugar and milk into their morning joe to make it less bitter, but what if I told you that coffee isn't supposed to be bitter at all? It all comes down to how you brew it. So today, I'm gonna be experimenting to show you how to brew the best cup you can, and in the process, overcome my arch nemesis, coffee.
Those cups are too small.
Okay, maybe just the first one. Hello Internet, welcome to Food Theory, the show to help kickstart your day. Honestly, it's probably only second to coffee, and that's exactly what we're talking about today. I don't know about you, but for a long time, I wasn't a coffee drinker. Maybe because I was drinking so much Coke that my body didn't need caffeine from another source. But everything changed when the Fire Nation, force a habit. Everything changed when I started living the assistant in Hollywood life. Early mornings, late nights, it was either coffee or bathing in Red Bull, and only one of those allowed me to be far less sticky during the day. Since then, I've started dipping my toes more and more into the world of coffee. And I'm obviously not alone in this. 73% of the American population drinks coffee every day. Amy makes up about half of all coffee sales every year in the continental United States. But what even is coffee? Simply put, it's a beverage brewed from a roasted coffee bean. But it gets complicated fast. What kind of bean? Light, medium, or dark roast? How finely do you grind those beans? Should you add sugar or milk? How much do you need to spend on a machine to make a simple black cup of coffee without that bitter flavor? It's a lot of questions to answer, and to be transparent, I knew I was gonna need some help with this.
I needed to bring in someone that has coffee in their veins, someone that's been drinking it for their entire lives, and now that I think about it, that probably wasn't even an exaggeration. And that person is none other than my wife, Claudia.
Hi, friends.
Introduce yourself, because this is your first time on camera. How does this feel?
Really weird. And I'm pretending like I am not nervous.
Well, isn't that adorable? For those of you who don't know, Claudia is Cuban, and that means she's had more coffee than most of the human population. There's honestly no better person to help me out with brewing and tasting coffee. But before we fully steep ourselves into the experiment, we need to understand the science of how coffee is made so we know how to fully optimize our brewing experience. When it comes to the many ways coffee is made, each method does the same key thing: interacting hot water with ground coffee. Ground coffee contains soluble or dissolvable compounds like oils, acids, and that sweet, sweet caffeine. When they interact with water, they begin to impart flavors into it. Extraction occurs as these compounds are being taken from the coffee grounds into the water. But over-extracting these compounds, leaving the coffee to brew for too long, can lead to a bitter taste as the heat strips away oxygen during evaporation. The acidic compounds then become too strong and bring on that gross bitterness. It's something that even the most expensive machines don't fully help you get rid of. With that in mind, we'll be using our AeroPress today, because even though there's a whole lot of options, some of them are way too technical or expensive for the average person, or just take way too long. I've been using AeroPress for some time, and I gotta say, it saved me on my road trip. The travel kit helped me through some tough times, especially when I was having to taste all the gas station coffee, which not only ranged from bad to okay, but also became my worst enemy in the process. And I'm not just biased because this is where I burned my giblets. That is a 0. In case you're not familiar, AeroPress is designed to give you smooth, rich coffee without any of the nasty grit or bitterness you may be accustomed to. It also takes less time, about 2 to 3 minutes. But the best part is, it uses science to make the best cup of coffee. You add hot water to the coffee in the chamber, stir, leave it for 30 seconds, then you add the plunger, which creates a suction that speeds up the extraction process, meaning you don't have to leave it to steep as long and reduces the acidity and bitterness of longer brewing methods. Then you press it through a small paper filter, and voila! It's so handy to have on the go or at home, and I've never made a bad cup using this.
And so with that out of the way, with that variable out of the way, we can focus on all the other things that we're gonna look at today, which is water ratio, water source, and grind size. So we're gonna be doing a blind taste test for every round, and kind of determining, we're not really gonna be scoring anything here, we're gonna be determining what flavors come through, because at the end of the day, coffee is subjective. Some people might like it a little bit richer, some people might like it a little bit waterier, watery.
This is gonna be a long one. While we brew our first batch of coffee with the power of dance, let's take a look at why we're even testing water ratio in the first place. It may seem odd, but there's no standard coffee recipe, and people like making different amounts, so ratios are the best way to keep things consistent. Now, there are quite a few agreed upon standards, and we'll be testing each one to see how the coffees will differ. The options we use used are 1 to 17, that's 17 grams of water for every gram of coffee, 1 to 18, which is recommended by the Specialty Coffee Association and is known as the golden ratio because it supposedly has the best balance of strength and flavor extraction, since more water means more extraction. And finally, we'll be pushing the upper limit with 1 to 20. Things started off a bit rocky, with Claudia just forgetting what we were doing entirely.
That's good.
Okay, this is about, like, you have to say what you're tasting. This is just not, like, you drinking coffee.
It's hard finding good blind taste testers these days. She got the hang of it, though.
I see your eyebrow. I see your eye twitching through the headband.
It's bolder, but not like in a better way.
It had a bold flavor, but a bold acidic flavor.
I think this is the one that you said. This one's not that flavorful, I will say. Like, it's a little more watered down. Okay, but it's a little more watered down than I would assume than I normally have my coffee.
This honestly stumped us in the moment. But while there's less water, which means the coffee should be more concentrated in the final drink, it also means there's less water to extract the flavor of the coffee. This gave us a more acidic, seemingly watered down flavor. The biggest surprise in this round, though, was the 1 to 20 ratio.
Ooh. Oh, okay, there's a lot more flavor there.
It's not too strong, it's not too light. Right in the middle.
While there was a more mellow, less intense flavor than the other two, it was much more enjoyable of a sip for both of us, despite Claudia normally liking her coffee strong enough to melt concrete. The presence of more water allowed for more of the complex flavor to be extracted from the coffee beans for a better overall experience. As for the golden ratio, it didn't seem all that golden. In our taste test, both of us noted that it was the most intense flavor, but to the point of being overpowering and still slightly acidic. So if you're someone that likes your coffee to punch you in the mouth with intense flavor, the golden ratio might just be for you. But if you want to enjoy a nice breakfast sipping on your coffee, the 1 to 20 is your best bet. But it's not just about how much water you're putting in to brew your coffee, it's also about where you're getting your water from, whether tap water, filtered water, or distilled water. The difference between filtered and distilled being that filtered water typically still has minerals that go through, while distilled water is made by boiling it and then condensing it back into a liquid, removing any and every mineral and impurity the water may have. In theory, food theory, distilled water should give the most coffee flavor, but it was time to put our tongues to the test.
Do you taste the land? Do you taste the fridge? Do you taste nothing?
I'm not getting like strong notes of any specific flavor.
Not a strong start for tap water, but the distilled was a clear favorite for Claudia.
Ooh, this one is way better. I mean, not way, that's dramatic, but it's definitely better.
Makes sense. She's a big fan of the coffee flavor. Me, on the other hand, I tasted things that weren't even there.
It's almost metallic. It really is, like, I can taste calcium or magnesium or something in there. There's an easium there I can taste.
Only thing I was tasting was my own BS there, clearly. And while the tap water tasted okay to me, the filtered water was where my clear favorite came through.
Ooh, okay. Oh, there's a big difference here.
The question became, why? Why was filtered water such a big difference from tap water? Both of them contain a variety of minerals like magnesium and calcium that can interact with the compounds in the coffee brewing process. Magnesium tends to bring out fruitier, more acidic notes, while calcium enhances chocolatey, creamy flavors. Those sound like good things, unless you're someone like Claudia who likes pure, unadulterated coffee. But for someone like me, you want those other notes to come out for a more balanced experience. The difference between the two sources, though, comes down to the hardness of the water. Yep, hardness. Water can be hard. Get your mind out of the gutter. What it means is the concentration of calcium and magnesium in the water itself. Hard water has higher alkalinity, which acts as a buffer against acidity in coffee, leading to a flatter, less bright taste in the final brew. So here's the problem. The hardness of your tap water is different depending on where you live. So you're gonna want to check your local area to see what sort of mineral levels you're dealing with. In my home here in Miami, the tap water has a hardness of 150 to 200 milligrams per liter. That's considered moderately hard, which could be causing me to make a less than optimal brew of coffee. That said, the filter we use gives us water with a lower concentration, not quite making the water soft, like the distilled water, but keeping the magnesium and calcium that helps highlight all the complex flavor in the coffee itself. So we finally settled the amount of water and what type of water you should be using. But there's one final crucial element in brewing the best coffee, and that's the grind size. Now, this will depend on what sort of method you're personally using, since some of them require a specific grind size. But with our AeroPress, we're able to play with a range of sizes. We're sticking with medium fine, medium, and coarse to keep things in 3 different enough sizes, but not before a surprise guest appearance.
What is happening?
It's Kenji. He came
Is
on
he
the
here?
set. Yes.
My baby.
Hello, everybody.
Whether it's on the road or on a regular shoot, he's gotta be the center of attention. This dog, man. When it came to the grind sizes, we got a surprise of our own. And for Claudia, not a pleasant one.
Whoa, way waterier. I don't love this.
See, this one already a little more watery. I can kind of taste, it's a little stronger, weirdly enough. You know, at the front of the mouth, it's right here, right here. I think.
Whatever that means.
It means it's right there. You know what I'm talking about, right? Let me know in the comments below if you get me or if you're on Claudia's side here. In any case, the surprise is that the watery coffee was actually the finest grind. Reason being, the smaller the coffee grounds, the more surface area that's being extracted, meaning a stronger flavor in less time. But for both of us, there was actually less of that flavor that we were detecting. The coarse grind was the hero for both of us in this round. Not necessarily because of the strength of the flavor, but the balance. It even got Claudia to do a little shimmy.
I like this one. Really well balanced, not too strong, not too light.
Ooh, okay. So this one's a little more watered down than the previous two. This one's very easy to drink.
See, despite the larger, coarser grind having less surface area to give up that delicious flavor, when extracted correctly like we did here, what flavor does come out is more nuanced, complex, and complete. There is a caveat though. Both of us agreed that while the coarse grind lent itself better to drinking with food like your morning breakfast, the medium grind was the way to go otherwise.
If you're someone that likes to have like your afternoon coffee by itself with a good amount of flavor, this one right here is the way to go.
With that, we've made our perfect cup of coffee. Balanced, flavorful, and delicious. But some of you might be wondering, why haven't we included milk or sugar? Well, that's because one of the main reasons sugar and milk are added to the coffee is to mask the bitterness of it, either by sweetening the coffee with sugar or using milk to balance the acidity. But we've just learned how to make a coffee that doesn't have that unwanted bitterness, so milk and sugar aren't needed to mask it. But I will accept that there are more reasons than just that. Some people just prefer the taste with milk added. It makes the drink smoother, or just prefer a slightly sweet coffee so they add sugar. To those people out there, don't worry, I got you. Because now that we have the perfect black coffee, we're gonna experiment with different types of milk and sugar. Not so that we can mask those unwanted flavors, but to help you get your ultimate cup no matter how you prefer it. You know what that means? Coffee brew dance party! The three most commonly used sugars, not counting those artificial sweeteners, are brown, white, and cane or raw sugar. Essentially, all three come from the same source, sugarcane. Raw sugar is unrefined but processed, meaning that most of the molasses is removed, but some remains, giving it a sweet taste with a tinge of the rich caramel flavor of molasses. White sugar is the refined and processed version, meaning it has no molasses, so after processing, what's left is that white sugar crystal. Brown sugar has molasses added back in, which is what gives it that darker color and richer flavor. Now, we're not looking at which one is healthier or anything like that. We're here for the flavor, for the taste. Speaking of, we both agreed on a favorite.
So this one's way better. Not only does the sugar taste like more natural sugar, like a natural sweetness, the sweetness is like vibing with the coffee flavor. Like they're friends, they're dancing, they're not battling, like they're one with each other.
This one has the best complement to the coffee, hands down. It's the right level of sweetness. It doesn't clash with the flavor of the coffee.
Now, both of us thought that the favorite was brown sugar, but it turned out to be white. This actually makes sense. The molasses I mentioned earlier in the brown and cane sugars add caramel and toffee notes that end up enhancing our perception of sweetness, whereas white sugar has a neutral flavor. So if you're looking to sweeten up your coffee without compromising the taste, then white sugar is the way to go. With our preferred sugar decided, there's one more question we wanted to answer. Does the order of operations matter? I've always wondered this. Does it make a difference if I put my packet of sugar in the mug and then pour the coffee, or pour my coffee and then stir in my sugar? We were both fairly certain it wouldn't make a difference, but boy, were we wrong.
This is really interesting. The one that had the sugar in it is much sweeter. There's a very apparent difference in the sweetness, whereas this one, you get way more coffee and only a little bit of sugar.
Yeah.
Here, you get a lot more sugar. Honestly, it masks the taste of the coffee a little bit more. To be completely honest, I had no idea that this would actually make a difference. but it 100% does.
The sugar being put in before and then pouring coffee on top allowed for better dissolution and distribution of the sugar throughout the liquid. When the coffee hits the sugar as it's being poured in, the dissolving process starts, where if you just stir it in immediately, some of the sugar may remain undissolved, making the coffee seem like it's less sweet. Point is, if you don't want to mask the flavor of your coffee but want some sweetness, stir in white sugar into the coffee. Don't put it in before. And last, but certainly not least, milk. Now, most commonly, you'll find places that put steaming hot milk into coffee. It gives it the delicious foam baristas make awesome little drawings in, but it also prevents the coffee from cooling down too much, something that is absolutely a drawback, as we learned with room temperature milk.
Now it's masking the flavor of the coffee.
Yes, I taste more milk.
I taste way more milk than coffee.
And if you're someone that doesn't want to deal with heating up your coffee, just want to add it straight from the carton in the fridge, that is not the way to go.
Oh, I don't like that. Yeah.
Nope.
Nope.
We already talked about how hot water helps extract the good flavors and compounds in the coffee, and that process continues as it stays hot. If you add cold milk, you're muting those flavors you just worked so hard to make. Not just that, it adds something even less yummy.
It tastes sour, like immediately. I feel like the cold milk, like it's not curdling or anything like that, but keep in mind, this coffee is 185 degrees Fahrenheit, so the cold milk suddenly being poured in there, brought the temperature down so much, but it gave it a sour flavor.
Yeah, I really wish I could untaste that. I'm not here to yuck anybody's yum, but if you're looking for balance and don't want to lose the flavor of your coffee to sour coldness, don't put in milk straight from the fridge. So now you know everything you need to brew yourself the ultimate cup of coffee. No matter what your individual taste for it is, you know the do's, the don'ts, and the oh good god whys. I think I may have had a bit too much caffeine.
So I'm gonna go lay down because my heart rate is dangerously high and I'm pretty sure I can see individual atoms. So, as always, remember, that's just a theory. A food theory. Bottoms up.
And I want to say a big thank you to AeroPress for sponsoring today's video. And they want to say thanks back by giving us an incredible offer for you. Visit aeropress.com/foodtheorists and use the promo code foodtheorist to save 20%. Stop wasting your time and tongue with bad coffee and say hello to flavor by going to aeropress.com/foodtheorists and using the code foodtheorist at checkout for that sweet, sweet 20%. Thanks again to AeroPress for sponsoring today's episode. And as always, I'll see you next week.